Welcome back, folks, to House Party's 5v5 Premier League. We're in the playoffs. It is Saw versus White Lightning. Saw had a nice game win for game one. And I am your play-by-play caster for today's game, Corrupt Hope. And alongside with me is the Saved One, our color caster. Saved One, what do you think about game two?
Well, we saw in game one that Saw played a very nice rotational style of play. They got picks wherever they could. They caught out White Lightning and any mistakes that they did. And this is kind of White Lightning's point to say, all right, guys, we messed up game one. We can admit that. But this is the best of three. So mistakes can happen game one. But game two is where they really do count. And I do not think that White Lightning can afford to make any mistakes going into this game.
That is very true. We do see the Lulu, Lux, and Zillion ban. Possibly 3 target bans at Spellbinding. Wow, quite the bans coming out from Saw, showing they just want to take her off for comfort and they aren't really afraid of anyone else. Meanwhile, we do see the Poppy, Rammus, and Nidalee ban. Very meta bans. They are afraid of junglers and Poppy. There's a good reason to do so. The Nautilus is being locked in first. And what do you think about the 2 picks coming out on the side of White Lightning?
These 2 picks kind of tell us that White Lightning wants to fight. They're picking the Graves so that Graves can get around into these different lanes to try and create the lane presence that Graves usually does early game. He offers a lot of early game damage. His ganks are very successful, mainly because he just offers a lot of damage. And he can really be backed up with the Braum. If you just get 3 passive stacks from Braum onto the target, whoever you want to, that target is stunned for like 1.5 seconds. And that's going to be extremely strong going into this mid game, and I really do want to see if White Lightning can pull that off. We also see Genshin hovering over the Lucian. Now, last game we saw that Lucian was played by Kiona. He had an iffy start on it, but I do want to see if Muse can pick up that Lucian pick and maybe try and play it better than Kiona can. Also, not to mention the Nautilus in the top lane. That pick's very strong in competitive play as a whole because it creates such a big split push threat.
Yeah, we do see the Elise and the Lucian very strong mid and late all throughout the game. Really, Elise a very strong early game jungler. We just did see DMX play her last game, played fairly strong. Meanwhile, we'll have to see what Spellbinding and Kiona pick. Covers the Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw not as strong this patch, got gutted fairly heavy from 6.5 nerfs, along with the attack speed and the damage. So probably not going to be the lock-in coming in from there. Obviously, they're just hovering, trolling us. Can't truly analyze it till they lock in. We do see the Malphite and the Caitlyn, a nice amount of zone control. If he does lock that in along with the solid amount of engage, you do have the Malphite, you do have the Braum changing up what they're doing this game.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to leave it looks like the mid lane pick for last, mainly because Spellbinding, I don't think she knows what she wants to pick, or they might be just sending the Malphite mid to try and play this passive type mid laner where she builds a lot of AP and then just tries to go into these different team fights and just provide a lot of damage. You see that Chen is being hovered over onto the side of White Lightning, but let's talk about Saw very quickly. They are coming at White Lightning with a very strong team fight comp. You've got the Nautilus split push, and with that split push going, he can easily just allow that lane to push as much as he wants. You see that DMX is playing a very strong early game jungler. You also see that the Lucian pick going over onto Muse is going to be very strong going in from that mid to late game. Genshin is going to be playing that Orianna. That's going to be a lot of impact in these team fights, and it does look like the Lissandra pick is going to be going over to the mid lane. Spellbinding going to be playing that. Maybe she can perform on that champion. I personally have not seen her on it. Maybe she can perform very well on it, but it does look like both of these teams are trying to come at each other with a humongous team fight comp. Just at each other, and there's no doubt that there's going to be a lot of fighting in this game.
And you know, something very unfortunate is the amount of doubt Spellbinding gets. You know, this isn't a lot of doubt that happens to any other mid laners, but only it seems when Spell picks a different mid laner that a lot of people doubt her per se. I don't think that's fair, personally, to only doubt one person based on what they pick. I think we're being very selective here. But regardless, you know, she did play fairly well in the early game last game. I am excited to see the mid lane matchup between Gunshin and Spellbinding. I think they both have a lot to bring to the table. Nice wombo combo comp coming out on the side of Wild Lightning. We do see the Outcantos engage with Spellbinding. You do have the Graves follow up, a nice amount of zone control, and Braum, just this huge team fight coming out on the side of White Lightning. Meanwhile, on Saw, you have the ball delivery service with Nautilus and Elise trying to deliver that Orianna ultimate with a nice front line of Nautilus Alistair and a good backline damage of Lucian.
Yeah, I used to doubt Spellbinding. I was kind of on that hype train where it's like Spellbinding can only play 3 champions. But last week, she did show us that she can play Lux. Now, I didn't really see her play Lux whatsoever, mainly because I haven't really been watching the Premier League as much, but she proved me wrong. I thought she could only play Lulu and Ari, but she came out last week playing the Lux, so maybe this week she can impress us with the Lysandra pick that they do have. But the ball is going to be very strong with this one. If Gunshin can land that 3-person Shockwave, then I think the rest of his team can be able to follow up. So, going into this game now, you see that the two jungle matchups, it's going to be the Elise again for DMX, but Kianan is switching over to the Graves. Now, Graves does pack a punch early game, so it's going to be a little bit better than the Vi. He also has a lot of experience on the Graves in solo queue just in general. So I do want to see if Kianan can come into this game and maybe try and pack such a punch that he doesn't solo queue.
That is very true. And you know what I am excited about is with once again 2 huge team fight teams, it's going to be another bloodbath. It's be very exciting. We're not to see if White Lightning can pull it out this game. Do you think we're going to see a lane swap this game, Save One?
I think in this game, no. One reason why I say that is because they had to do it last game. They had the Jarvan top lane. They noticed that Alcantos is going to be playing a damaged top laner. So what's a better way to shut down a damaged top laner than just do the lane swap? And it was a very smart strat coming up from Saw. But in this game, it's tank versus tank. Just leave them top lane, allow both of them to farm, and just basically allow both of them to be tanky. I think if anyone is going to try and do a lane swap, it's going to be White Lightning here, trying to go top lane and trying to shut down this Nautilus. Because we've seen if a Nautilus can farm and if he can get ahead in the early game, then he's going to be packing a lot of punch with maybe the Banner of Command. We saw that a little bit, and definitely the ZZ Rot portal. But I think the build for Nautilus at the moment will just be the Sunfires into ZZ Rot. That packs a lot of punch going into the top lane split push, and that is a humongous factor going into this game. We are 14 seconds away from going into loading screen, so guys, just stay tight because Saw versus White Lightning Game 2 is up next. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, folks, to House Party's 5v5 Premier League playoffs. We have our 2 teams here, White Lightning on the red side versus Saw on the blue side. This is the semifinals, and Saw is already up 1-0. I am your play-by-play caster for today's game, Corrupt Hope, and alongside with me is our color caster, the Saved One. What do you think about this game right now, the Saved One?
Well, it looks like that both teams are going for just a very defensive start. There's going to be no invading coming up from both sides, no offensive wards like we saw last game. One strat that's actually been kind of common is actually just send the jungler mid lane to maybe see uh, just if there's going to be any invades whatsoever. So it's kind of a strat that most teams have been doing just to kind of block every single entrance that could be invaded, and it's being demonstrated by White Lightning in this early game. But It looks like it's going to be a normal vanilla start. The jungler is looking to maybe start topside, so we could see a lot of damage going into the bottom lane. But as for
Minions
white
have
laning, it looks like
spawned.
Graves might be just starting bottom side and then just working his way top side. So we maybe could see some early game damage going out top lane, but who knows?
We do see the lane swap happening, so it looks like they do want to put
Oh, wow.
themselves against this Malphite lane. I don't think it's as much as they want an easy lane for the top laners. I think they're
Hmm.
more confident in their lane swapping ability. As we saw last game, they did lane swap a lot faster and they got turrets down faster, but they just did not end up with more CS and gold. So, because definitely the Nautilus versus Malphite matchup isn't a bad matchup. Nautilus
Mhm.
probably wins it. He has more magic damage, more DPS, but I think it's exactly as I said. They are a lot more confident in their lane swap abilities. And now Alcantos is totally caught out by it. He's running away from top lane, maybe trying to help his jungler with a buff, but he's just so far away. It's completely caught him off guard.
Yeah, Saw's almost forcing White Lightning to play their own game. They're just like, all right, it worked in the first game, let's do it again. They're sending the bottom lane, top lane, and they're forcing all consoles to basically go away from top lane and just help his jungler out. It does look like Nautilus got some experience and some minions from the different camps that him and his jungler did, and Nautilus is going to be going topside to try and get that tier 1 tower top lane.
Yeah, he will be heading toward the top lane. Malphite just been missing out on so much CS and XP though. Still level 1, 2 CS, trucked all the way from top lane to the bot lane. That's some rocky, I don't know, rocky path something, folks. I don't know, but he just ran all the way from the top turret to the bottom turret. Quite a long stretch. And once again, we see Saw leading on this lane swap.
Tried to create a pun. I think the pun that you were looking for is Rocky Road, like a rocky road from top lane to bottom lane. But we do see lane swaps coming out, so the top laner is going to be helping bottom lane out in the top lane, and vice versa for the bottom lane. It does look like the towers will be going down for both sides. We see Kion in the mid lane.
Gunshin is going to have to flash out of the mid lane. A very nice flash for him. Cleanse would not have been enough if he did stay for Lysandra route, but a nice gank by Kianan getting that flash very early.
Yeah, I think that Graves is kind of a situational pick. We saw it a couple patches ago, mainly because it just packs so much damage. But we see it this patch and it's like, wait a minute, why are you playing it? But it's very situational, mainly because if you have a lane that can CC, Graves is allowed to output his damage since Graves doesn't have any CC of his own. So it was a very smart play to go mid lane, just try and allow Spellbind to get the CC off onto Gungeon, and then Kianan follows up with his own damage. We also see Kianan is hovering over this mid lane once again, so maybe he can try and get something off knowing that Gungeon's flash is down.
Some trading going out in the mid lane, fairly even. Gungeon did not get his shield in time, and now the bot lane of Saw is hidden in this bush, and White Lightning has no idea. It's a level 3 lead to a level 2, and here comes the engage. Not much happening, very exciting so far. As you can see, just some autos being traded, fast disengaged by White Lightning, but now Kianan is on his way down and he's behind the bot lane of Saw, but he will get scouted out fairly fast. Lucian is far in the front row, Brahms right behind. Kianan will probably get CC'd. Here comes in the teleport from Nautilus though, a nice flash on the side of White Lightning by Kianan. It looks like White Lightning are just trying to disengage this gank.
Yeah, a very nice valiant effort into the bottom lane to try and play off of Saw's disadvantage. Kiana does know that Saw doesn't have a turret anymore, but Saw played that very, very well because they set up the wards to be allowed to push up that far. And White Lane looked like they didn't really have a lot of kind of follow-up. Like, Kiana was like, alright guys, we're going in. But then Kiana was like, nah, I just want to play passive. And that was a little bit of a communication error. So now Saw is trying to play off their lead just a little bit more by getting this first dragon.
Yeah, as we saw, getting it even earlier than last game. Muse a little far up, but he does have his team to back him. And something very important is Alcantos has just been solo farming in the top lane, while Super Frank has been running and teleporting around. So he's getting a nice amount of XP and levels, which is all he really needs at this point. as they threaten this bot lane turret. It will be a 4v2. I'm not sure if they can hold it. Alcantos can't teleport down, but he doesn't offer much. Looks like they're going to go ahead and back off this turret as they start getting a lot of DPS down. Kyannan is running on his way, but they aren't able to do much from stopping this.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that White Lightning, they're trying to do something with Philly here in this bottom lane. Kyannan will be coming up for some follow-up. Alcantos does have the TP available, but there is one ward in the bush, so maybe there could be a TP play here. They're definitely looking for it.
Yeah, here comes the wave clear engage as we see those K-traps are doing a nice amount of zone control. Spellbinding taking some damage in the mid lane. Neither mid laner has back yet. They both are level 6 though, so we could see a fight happening very soon. Lissandra's ult does heal her when self-casted, so Lissandra could possibly still win even at these health levels. Alcantos has finally shoved in the top wave, but Super Frank does not have teleport, so he's going to miss out a lot of XP and a lot of CS coming out, as Alcantos already has that XP lead, and that's what's so important, folks, in these lane swaps is how much do the top laners get set behind, how much CS do they get, how do the AD carries turn out, and you know, they seem to be fairly even as far as AD carries go, but Alcantos definitely has the XP lead.
Yeah, and to add on to your point just even more, we saw that in the early game, Nautilus actually had a CS lead. I believe it was just like a 10 CS lead. And one thing that you need to do in these lane swaps is play it to its max potential. So we saw that Nautilus went bottom side to try and get that tower, but it didn't work out for them. So that he's just going to be wasting his lead. Alcantos now farmed back up to be even with the Nautilus, and we might see a mid lane gank coming from Kyannan.
Yeah, Gunshin Splash will be up in 10 to 15 seconds, but it's not up now. Cleanses the W, but does not do it for the ultimate, and he will not get away. A definite misplay. Definitely should have waited for the ultimate before using Cleanse. Could have possibly still died, but a nice gank timer. Orianna's Splash was still down for a couple seconds, and both top laners are just going to be trying to farm. Once again, as we can see, Alcantos is level 6, Super Frank only level 5, but now two members of White Lightning shoving down this mid lane turret, and it looks like the map has kind of gone back to normal laning, don't you think, Sablin?
Yeah, it looks like that the top laners are finally meeting top lane, the bottom laners are finally meeting bottom lane, and this is where White Lightning kind of succeeds over Saw just a little bit more, because White Lightning knows how to play the normal lanes, and they know how to get the normal lanes ahead, which is what Saw was trying to prevent last game, and they did it. But this game, they tried to prevent it, and it didn't really work. They sent the Nautilus bottom. It didn't really help them that much, so Nautilus was forced to go back top lane. And this is where Kyannan was like, alright, this is kind of looking like solo queue, so now let's try and get this mid lane gank off while Orianna still doesn't have flash up, and she didn't. She was forced to use the cleanse, and lockdown after lockdown, she died. So they are going to be giving a kill over to Spellbind. Let's see if she can use that one kill lead to her advantage to maybe try and get into these different lanes and try and get her different lanes ahead, or she can just try and stay mid lane, maybe get a little bit more kills onto Orianna, or just try and farm it up in this early to mid game.
Yes, quite so. Both top laners are trying to get as much XP and gold as possible. But now Saw threatening this bot lane turret. This would be a turret lead for them since there's no damage on the top lane turret. I think they will get a lot of previous damage already. But Philly going in. They look like they're going for the engage. Rolar getting hit very low. Now Muse is in trouble. Rolar doing the headbutt away, but here comes the teleport in from Malphite, canceled by the Elise Cocoon, and now Nautilus canceling his own teleport. It was almost a Fiesta bot lane, but the party has stopped, and looks like they're going to go back to normal farming.
Yeah, and it also looks like that White Lightning is now kind of even in terms of bottom lane wise. You see that Saw doesn't have a tower, and White Lightning doesn't have a tower. So in this case, it can look like that there could be a fight breaking out, maybe a 2v2, maybe they can try and force one of the junglers down, but the junglers are just like, alright, we don't have any TP, so we can't really do anything bottom lane, let's try and do something top lane. They got that the Rift Herald, now they're going to try and transition that maybe into a top lane tower, or maybe just a push.
But now DMX canceled B, but Alcanto split away from him. We see a split 2v2. Alcanto with a flash engage, a nice kill onto DMX, but now he's engaged in the bot lane. Muse getting hit up. There is 3 stacks on both members, but now Super Frank is the one in trouble. He still has flash. He needs to do it soon, or he will fall. Alcanto's tanking the turret. snaring Keanon, but Malphite is still taking it out. Muse is the one to fall in the bot lane. Actually, White Lightning's bot lane completely winning out the 2v2 top lane and bottom lane. Quite the power play. And now White Lightning with a nice 5-0 lead.
This shows that
now there's an engage in the mid lane. Gunshin doing, whoa, cleansing the ultimate. Spellbinding is the one in trouble. He will flash away. Gunshin will flash right after him. An unfortunate death on the side of Lissandra, possibly eating over those raptors instead. Could have saved him.
This is exactly what White Lightning needs. They are used to playing the game like normally. They're used to playing it where the top lane goes top lane, bottom lane goes bottom lane. And they know that they're stronger than their lane opponents. I think Alcantos knows he's a little bit stronger than Super Frank in terms of personal skill. And I think in the bottom lane, even though Muse and Relara are a very good duo, Philly and Kiona equally matched that in that battle bottom lane. So now all of White Lightning's lanes are basically even with each other. You see mid lane, it's even there at least, but in these different lanes,
it looks like we are going to see a dragon fight coming on out. Relara taking some Braum stacks, not too much happening. The dragon's hitting and smacking everyone out. There will be a disengage coming in.
Yeah, it also looks like White Lightning is going to be answering that Dragon Start with their own Dragon Start of their own. So this is going to be Dragon number 1, maybe, for White Lightning, and that answer is yes. So this is where their rotation game comes in. Can they rotate him in and maybe try and get something off of that Dragon? Not only just a Dragon, or maybe just a mid lane turret as well.
You know, Kanto strutting his stuff in the mid lane with that Malphite. Kiona is still very far away. Looks like there's some hesitation on what there is to do, but if they want to siege this mid turret, Kaylin needs to start getting those traps out, get out that zone control. Looks like Kiona is actually split from the team right now to the side, not exactly the safest spot, but Billy going in for the engage. Here's the wombo combo. Where's the Lissandra? She's getting CC'd so hard. There's the ultimate now. Kiona getting some DPS in, but all members of White Lightning are falling left and right, and now Kiona, this is the problem with being split to the side. You're in trouble. Looks like he will get away, but now Kiona is the one in trouble. Alistar in melee range, just waiting for his cooldown. There is the two-man headbutt, a great play, a nice pickup by Caitlyn though, and that is a 3 for 2 on the side of Saw.
What White Lightning was doing there, it was actually just very confusing, because it was like, alright, we've got the engage, but the only thing is Kiona is split, so how can we make up for that kind of deficit? It's that allow Saw to be focusing on the engagers that are the people that are in the middle of them, and just allow Kiona to be off to the side. But the only thing that is wrong with that is that right when they noticed that Kiona was split, they immediately switched targets and they killed the engagers, and they were like, alright, who's next? Let's try and kill Kiona. That didn't really work out for them, and it was a favorable trade for Saw. So now White Lightning is only 1k ahead, but it is still a gold advantage. So it was kind of a baby throw. It was like a small baby throw going over onto the side of White Lightning. So hopefully they can kind of try and learn from that deficit that just happened mid lane, maybe try and get their stuff together, and maybe come out in favor in the next team fight.
Yes, White Lightning is still 2k up, they still have the lead, and Kiona, although he didn't contribute too much that fight, is still 3-0. As you can see, it's a pink ward galore. Thank God he's playing Lucian and not Jhin, otherwise we would be here a while, folks. They're going to be clearing out that mid lane farm, and not too much happening. Both teams just kind of want a team fight at this stage of the game. There's neither team can split push. There's no ZZ Rots built, so it's kind of just a let's group mid and bang it out. But it looks like Kiona wants to try to finish his items on Caitlyn, wants to get that Rune-ons, wants to get that IE, but it's going to take him a while.
Yeah, it's definitely going to take him some time just to try and farm up just a little bit, maybe in the top lane, or try and get some CS mid lane, even bottom lane. But that kind of costs the rest of the team to not really farm, so they need to try and equally split. We see in the bottom lane a little bit of a tank fight going on here.
Yeah, not too much happening. Kanto's just throwing down those spike clubs. DMX a little far in. He will be getting punished for this as Kion is rounding the corner, but now if White Lightning sees them doing Rift Herald. Kiana already so low. Super Frank in with the telly now. Kiana is the one in trouble. There's a flash pulverized by Alistair. There is the Orianna ult, and now Kiana is getting not ulted. He's in trouble too. Lissandra finally coming in, but eating away so far from the fight, and now getting kited by Orianna. Cantos flashing over to try to kill Super Frank, but there is the Orianna save. Kiona will finish off the kill, and now Gunshin's in trouble. He will cleanse off the Lissandra ultimate. It looks like a decent disengage, a very sloppy fight by both teams, but White Lightning coming out on top of the kill on the Super Frank.
Yeah, even though it was a sloppy fight, it was still better than last fight because White Lightning kind of got their stuff together. They kind of noticed, all right, Keone, you cannot be separated from the team like that. So they kind of created a barrier between Saw and White Lightning where the tanks were on one side of that wall near the Raptors, sort of. But Fiona was on the opposite side of that wall, just trying to do whatever he could, whatever damage he could with the current items that he does have on Caitlyn, and it did. It did offer a sort of a lot of damage, going over onto the side of White Lightning, and he did flash to try and get that kill, and he did onto Super Frank. So it's going to be another kill for him. He is going to be 4-0-0. He's going to be going back to base, trying to pick up some items, try and pack even more of a punch going into this mid game.
Is quite true. Lucian hopefully finally picking up those items. We do see the Essence Reaver, we do see the Zeal trying to approach that nice 30% CDR you get from Essence Reaver when you get your finished Zeal item. On the side of White Lightning, we do see Caitlyn has that Hurricane now working on the IE. Those headshots are coming out a lot faster now that she procs 3 stacks instead of 1 on every auto attack.
Yeah, we also see that the Rift Herald is going to be taken by White Lightning in this case to try and push mid lane just a little bit more, because we have been seeing a lot of action mid lane, so hopefully White Lightning can try and answer that with the Rift Herald take, maybe even try and get that mid lane tower with the gold advantage that they do have, and even with the Rift Herald buff, we're gonna have to see that. But it is going close into the mid game. It's also 30 seconds for Dragon to be up, and also Saw answering with a bottom lane push of their own.
Yeah, 5 members of SAW are pushing down this turret. They will get it, but now White Lightning says, alright, we'll just catch you out of rotation. They're going to be pushing down this mid turret for their time. They do secure the turret. They still are, actually they're even in turrets right now, but now teams are in a weird spot, and it looks like a fight's about to break out. Keanu does get caught by the cocoon. There is the Lucian ult, not very much connecting. Philly blocking the rest of it, and looks like a very tense standoff for both teams. Super Frank just taking some auto attacks to the back of the Astro Pack, but not much will happen from that.
Yeah, all talk but no show. You have a Q, no you have a Q, no you have auto attacks, no you have auto attacks. Now this Dragon is live, so I do want to see, could there be a fight, or could one team just give it over to another team, or can Saw actually answer with a mid lane siege of their own? But it does kind of look like they can't really siege onto a Rift Herald buff that Keanon does offer. So that Dragon is going to be staying there for the time being. Saw is going to be coming up with the mid lane siege. There could be a fight. Alcantos does not have TP, but he does have ult, so maybe there could be a fight, but Saw has a lot of wards in the enemy jungle.
Well, the Dragon is the one being contested. White Lightning trying to break out of this pathway. Philly leading the charge. Looks like they were just going to dominate, take Dragon control, saying this is our area to fight in. Saw showing they're obviously afraid of them. The ball is on leash. You do have the repel delivery system doing some damage on Alcantos. Now Philly, a little overextend, is going to be taking a little bit of damage. Not too much, but still being at 40% on Braum is not ideal. Both teams just doing literal team fight dance, just skittering around, looking for engages, looking for a pick that would let them go onto this Dragon.
Yeah, it does kind of look like this is where the game is just turning out to be. It's just whoever can get more poke off onto the enemy, and then whoever gets more poke off is the one team that engages, and you have to pray and hope that when you do engage, you do not misstep in any way for the enemy team try and get a pick onto you. But it does look like with Braum going back into base, it maybe could look like a Dragon take, or just blue buff.
Oh, flash all by Alcantos, but no members of White Lightning are here to follow up. A very late follow-up. You will be stopping his ultimate. Kiana and Kiona are on the side, and Gunshin is helping out with the kill. Spellbinding flashing forward, a nice kill on Diffuse. The team fight is split up. Carries versus frontline on both sides, and looks like White Lightning is winning each side individually. And now Relara is the last one left, a dominating team fight victory on the side of White Lightning. 4-0, and it might even be a full-on ace if Spellbinding can catch this mad cow. Let's see, the chase goes on. She's going, there's the E forward. Relara just pulverizes a bit too late. A nice play by Spellbinding, currently 5-1-1. A strong showing on Lysandra.
Yeah, this is exactly what we were talking about in Champion Select, is that a lot of people doubt Spellbinding's skill, but she's very dominant coming into this game. All Kianan had to do was give her a kill. Even though she did die 1v1 versus Gunshin, it was a little bit of a misplay by Spellbinding. But she's coming into these team fights, she's getting one by one just little kills, and all of those kills added up to that team fight that we just saw. She had a tremendous impact going into that fight. So is going to be answering with the mid lane siege, but I think that White Lightning maybe is trying to try and contest it.
Now they know they can fight this, and they're going to. Looks like they will not secure the turret. It will not be going to have Spellbinding with the side engage. A nice all buyout Kentos. Relara completely denying Spellbinding her wombo combo, but they're still chasing. They're still low without Spellbinding even doing anything. There will be the connect on the Q. Gunshin does have ultimate, will not let it loose yet. And looks like Saw are just going to escape just barely. A nice play by Alistair, preventing the full wombo.
Yeah, both teams we have seen coming into this series, and they're both trying to do something. We could see a mid lane.
Looks like Spellbinding is the one getting the damage. Ooh, and Oriana only connecting onto Braum. Not very nice with Spellbinding, trying to get into the middle of it. And now, once again, Saw is on the back pedal. Super Frank taking in a lot of damage. There's the Braum ult, not going where it should have. And looks like Saw will once again be safe. Both teams exhausted of the majority of their resources. Spellbinding still has that ultimate. She might just use it. There it comes out at another engaged by Relara, going in for one more combo, but it will cost him. And Fiona with that Hurricane is doing so much damage now. Saw is on the back line once again. This such a long fight. DMX will repel to safety, but can Super Frank make it out? Looks like he will. That Void Runner passive from the uncompleted ZZ Rot will propel him quite a bit forward, and it looks like White Lightning are going ahead and back off this turret. A good call.
That was just such a weird fight, because it was an engage by Saw, and then they were disengaging, and then they re-engaged, and then they disengaged once again to try and end that fight. And it was just so back and forth, and both teams are trying to force this mid lane fight, and it's not going in Saw's favor. They only got one kill out of that, and I believe that White Lightning got maybe 2 kills out of that fight, so it is going to be going in White Lightning's favor. And if you actually look up at how many wards that White Lightning has, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's quite the showing, and Kiona just untouched in these fights, getting out so much DPS. We're putting a lot of focus on how Spellbinding can in the middle of these fights, but you know, you have Kiona on the side, he's doing so much damage, and he's reaching that endgame Cade. He has the IE, he has the Runon's Hurricane, and he can already put 5 traps down probably, or very close to it, probably 4 right now. Does not have his W maxed yet, but once they start truly sieging and not just these kind of chase backs of an ARAM, Howling Abyss in the mid lane, we're really going to start to see how Caitlyn's late game shines.
Yeah, to add on to your Caitlyn point, we saw earlier in this game that Caitlyn didn't really have the best positioning, where she was off to the side near the bottom lane bush, and then White Lane tried to engage, but she still stayed alive, even though the positioning was not the best. Kiona learned his lesson, and then he started to group mid lane, and then he kind of created himself a deficit, or he created a barrier between himself and Saw, and he did that exact same thing in the fight that we just saw. Kiona is not going to be dying anytime soon. We see Relara.
Relara face checking into an angry Malphite. Not much will happen but this isn't Academy League, folks. These teams know Baron exists. White Lightning threatening vision all around it, trying to force another team fight. They know they could win it, and that's exactly what they want to do. Saw is not going to go that far to them, though. They don't want to fight this. They want to be as careful as possible, but they know if White Lightning starts Baron, they can 5v5 fight it. So both teams just at a standstill, not sure how to push this in. Looks like Spellbinding is heading top lane. She does not have teleport though, so Saw is going to take this chance to go ahead and clear out all these wards.
Yeah, one thing that White Lightning is doing here at the 26-minute mark is they notice that Baron is going to be up in 1 minute. So they're like, alright, let's send Spellbinding topside, let's just send someone else bottom lane to try and clear that, and then once, oh, we see a engage.
Alcantos in a lot of trouble, ult out of the Orianna ultimate. Wow, cannot be disabled. That's the best way to get out of that cluster. And he will barely leave, but a huge engage on the side of White Lightning down. And you know, with Dragon up in 36 seconds, Malphite ult is no longer to be up. That's a huge amount of disengage that is down. But on the other side, that was the Lucian and the Orianna ultimate, so it's not completely lost on the side of White Lightning.
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit of a communication error coming out from White Lightning, because what they could have done is actually sent Alcantos top lane to clear that top lane wave out, sent Caitlyn bottom to clear that out as well, and then once Saw started Dragon, that's going to be coming up in 7 seconds, they maybe could have tried to TP and try and fight. We see an engage here.
Looks like Philly is going to go in for an engage, but not much happening. DMX getting hit very low. Looks like the Nolithal will connect on Spellbinding. Kiona doing so much damage in the backline though. Now Muse is the one caught out in trouble. Spellbinding doing so much damage along with Kiona. Kiona's just untouched every fight and already 4 members down. Gunshin is the last one. He did not have ultimate for that fight. And here comes the Caitlyn ultimate. Alcantos trying to finish the kill. Gunshin does have that blue buff, will flash away, throw in an auto just to be cheeky, but just a huge loss on the side of Saw, and now you have all 5 members of White Lightning ready to push this in. Now Gunshin in trouble, stayed a little too long and will pay for it. What a play, and now all 5 members of Saw have fallen as White Lightning brute force their way into this base.
That's what White Lightning needed. They noticed that they were very far ahead, and they were like, you know what, we don't need the Malphite ult. Let's just fight regardless if Malphite has it. And he packed more of a punch than he basically ever did in any of these fights kind of combined. And one of the main reasons why I say that is because if you saw in that fight what Alcantos did, he split the rest of the team from basically the 3 carries, and one of those carries being Nautilus, from the rest of the team. So he took 2 of the members of Saw and was like, no, I'm gonna basically push you away from your team. And then the rest of Saw was like, wait a minute, where's the rest? Where's the 2 players that were on my team? And then they're like, wait a minute, Alcantos has them basically running back to their own base. And it was very nice zone control by Malphite. He basically did his job in that fight. And then the rest of White Lightning just packed this humongous punch against the rest of Saw. It was a very nicely played fight by White Lightning. I believe they picked themselves up the Dragon, so it's Dragon number 3 going to be giving them extra movement speed.
What a beautiful thing. What an absolutely beautiful thing. Super Frank has given up on trying to fight out Alcantos. He's like, I can't do this, man. I don't get paid enough. And now Alcantos just smacking away at these minions. Has the ZZ Rod, has the Sunfire. Will Super Frank try to go for the ZZ Rod himself and ignore Alcantos? That's the true question. I don't think so. Alcantos slowly winning that Rock versus Rock war. Rolara getting a nice combo onto Philly. Philly caught out way out of position. Gonna take a nice chunk of damage, but he's still super tanky. Spellbinding did clear mid. She is on her way. But now the nice interrupt on the Lucian ultimate and a good disengage. Rolara flashes forward once again to get a nice combo. Kiana is the one in trouble. He's super overextended, taking huge damage. His ultimate will counter the back end. But now Kiona is doing so much damage. A nice flash, a great play, and he's slaughtering everyone. Oh my god, a beautiful triple kill. A nice display of mechanics by Kiona and another decisive teamfight victory on the side of White Lightning with 25-5 and a 10k gold lead. They might just look to end this game right now.
It's The one of the main reasons why I was just laughing through that whole entire fight is because you saw bottom lane, the tank fight that was going on. You see Super Frank versus Alcantara. You see Super Frank getting caught out here. Lissandra ult gonna be finishing him all off. So this game, I believe it is the game, but it was a tank fight in the bottom lane. Just they were both stopping each other's TPs. They were trying to TP into the fight. But anyways, 30 minutes into the game, 5-26 going over on the favor of White Lighting. I'm getting mixed up in my words. 56K, 47K. We will be seeing a game 3 GG over to White Lighting.